Hello, friends. Welcome to today's show. I'm Dr. Helen, founder and CEO. That would be Chief Engagement Officer of Dr. Helen Holton and Associates, and your host for Dr. Helen Speaks, Strengths, Resilience, and Leadership. If you're here, we believe it's because you want to add to your knowledge and power as a leader, to increase your intellect, what you know, and invest in your leadership. These are actions to move you closer to your next level in life and leadership. I've learned along this leadership journey, the most effective leaders are lifelong learners. Your investment in you as a leader makes you a better leader, a more relevant leader, the kind of leader the world needs more of today. Three things we know for sure are: one, when you learn to leverage your strengths, the best of who you are. Two, navigating weaknesses, and we all have them. It's really no big deal. Gallup actually defines a weakness as anything that gets in the way of your success. Short and simple. I just love that, to the point. And third, build your resilience. I am the resilience guru of life. It's why I stand and do these things that I do. But what I know is when you incorporate these three treasures into your leadership growth and development, they'll empower you to stay steady during your storms so you can sail smoothly on the seas of success with ripples and not ruptures. It doesn't mean you won't have moments of feeling stagnant or stuck. That's where your resilience comes in. Resilience is a powerful practice that you build that helps you persevere and push through your disruptions, distractions, and detours that work to derail your success. Let me ask you this: what's standing in the way of your next best success? Yeah, give it some thought. Of all the places you could have chosen to spend time right now, we're glad you're here. You add value to our time together. Your conversations, comments, and suggestions matter. We take them to heart. When we curate content for the show, it's with you in mind. Reach out and let us know how we're doing. Drop us a note on our website, drhelenholton.com, through the Contact Us tab, or connect with me on LinkedIn as Dr. Helen Holton, and follow us on Instagram at Dr. Helen Speaks. We love connecting with you. Do you have the opportunity to do what you do best every day? I ask you this powerful question every week because it's something you should think about every day. It's way too easy to get stuck in a rut and not know it. When you come to our show, we want you to give yourself permission to exhale and breathe. Allow your mind to let go and be present in this moment, to think deeper, be more intentional, and do something with whatever you take away. Take action. Our goal is to encourage you to engage deeper with yourself than you normally do and focus on what you really want for your life. Repetition is a proven process for retention, and that's how you build your resilience. When you invest in yourself regularly and empower yourself to be a better leader, focused on what you do best. That's powerful. Now, before we jump in with our guest today, make sure you've got something handy to jot down some thoughts, ideas, questions, aha messages that click for you. Capture them so you can easily come back to them later. Ask us questions, reflect, expand, and build them into your life. Have you enjoyed the women warriors and waymakers we've had on the show lately? We've had some powerful and insightful conversations, and today is continuing in that format. And I am super excited about our guest today. She's a warrior, a waymaker, and a legacy leader. How often do you think about women as legacy leaders? We've traditionally been conditioned to believe this role is reserved for men first, period. Here, We're committed to shifting that mindset. In the words of Dorothy Irene Height, the 10th national president of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, she said, "I want to be remembered as someone who used herself and anything she could touch to work for justice and freedom. I want to be remembered as one who tried." And I am convinced that our guest today embodies these words. I'm delighted today to introduce to some and present to others a phenomenal woman who's making her own leadership legacy on multiple fronts. Dr. Frances Tony Draper, chairman of the board and publisher of the Afro-American newspapers, founded in 1892 and 130 years and counting, continues to be a prominent, trusted source of news and information in the community, and in the world. Here's an interesting piece of information you might not know. It was Martha Murphy who provided the seed money to her husband, John Murphy Sr., to launch this legacy. It began with the backing of a woman and is led today by a woman. Now that deserves a hand clap of appreciation. This is to you, Tony. So, Tony Draper, a community leader, a warrior and waymaker, and a legacy leading lady in journalism, education, and faith. Dr. Draper is a sought-after speaker and author of 2 books. She sits on several boards, sharing her knowledge and insights from a leader's view. In 1992, the National Newspaper Publishers Association, I think I have that right year. No, I think it was before then. Anyway, you'll correct me. NNPA named her Publisher of the Year. Let's give a heartfelt welcome to our guest, Dr. Frances Tony Draper. Tony, I'm humbled and honored to have you here with us today. What would you like to share before we jump in? Hold on.
Thank you for unmuting me, and good afternoon. So good to see you and to be here. It's an honor to be here on your show, Dr. Helen. I've listened to a couple of your episodes, and you talk about everything from the power of red, just to the power of women in red or not in red. So I'm just glad to be here with you today. Yeah, it was 2022.
That's what I thought.
It was just last year that distinction was made, and the Afro itself was named the #1 Black newspaper in the country by the National Newspaper Publishers Association, and that's a very competitive. It's not like we look to see who we want to elevate this year. It's actually sending in articles and editorials and cartoons and campaigns and being judged among your peers. So.
Well, I will tell you this, in another life, I was committed to supporting NNPA through advertising and promotion of newsworthy information, not just locally, but to spread across the nation. So I thank you for being in position to help us do better. It was Maya who I believe said, when you know better, you do better. And the Afro-American newspaper has always been a vehicle to help us do that. Now, I'm going to kick this off because you're a person who can tell us directly something I've been curious about, and in this space where we're all family and we just like to keep it real. What is it about women who rise to leadership roles and are donned with the title chairman? Why is it that we do not shift that to chairwoman? What's that about?
Well, I shifted to chair.
Okay.
It's easier in the signature, but I shifted to chair because even though some would say the chairman is gender neutral, it's not really gender neutral. And chairwoman, people stretch to even say that. So just make it chair.
I love it. I love it. I was going over in my mind and I said, you know what, I'm going to ask her this question because I get bios from women and it's chairwoman of the chairman of this chairman. And I'm like, but what it's taken for us to get to these places, deserves a right to be gender neutral. I'm
Correct.
just,
Correct. So, and I don't get too hung up on titles about what people call me. It's what you answer to. And
Mhm.
it's the work, let the work that I do speak for me, not the title. Because a whole lot of titles don't mean things. People call themselves all kinds of things on today. So you can have a title if you want. You can have all the letters behind your name and before your name and all of that. For that and 2 cents will get you to a cup of coffee. Well, really, if you go to Starbucks, you have to have $7, $8. But so I don't get hung up on titles, as long as you don't call me out of my name.
Yes, I love it. However, for some people coming into leadership, that title matters until they develop the confidence that it's not about the title, it's about the role, it's about how you show up and what you do. And what I know is that it just appears that leadership is in your DNA. When did you really become aware of it through your family's history? And how did it happen?
Well, I really became aware of it just growing up in Frances Murphy's household, my mom. She was a single mom. And she juggled 3 children and a full-time job and night classes and all of that. And she said to me as the oldest, and when I was about 15, true story, she said, people were using checkbooks, right? She said, here's a checkbook. Here's a list of things that have to be paid. Here are the things you have to make sure that we don't run out of. I mean, she told me all of this. I'm like 15, right? I'm putting your name on this checkbook. I need some help. And I need you to figure out what needs to be paid when, pay it on time, and make sure we have food. So one time I remember asking her, I said, Mom, you gave me this list, you gave me the checkbook and all of that, and told me to write this and, get the envelopes ready. But there are more things for me to take care of than there's money in the bank. She said, figure it out. Just figure, you figure it out. And if you get too stuck, I'll help you, but figure it out. Just make sure the lights stay on and that we have food in the refrigerator.
I love it.
Early on, that was like at 15.
And think about it. For as much as we've advanced, there are still women today that relegate what I call that development of leadership to someone else. I'm not going to name it, but too often we get, oh no, that's what they take care of. I just, do this and not get involved. However, that is a wonderful example of grooming leadership without it really being called that at the time. It was more like survival.
Well, survival. And then my maternal grandparents had 5 daughters, so they didn't have any sons. So my maternal grandmother was a leader in her own right. My paternal grandmother ended up owning a catering business, so she was a leader in her own right. And so I just naturally thought that women were leaders.
I love that. As I said, it's clear that leadership is in your DNA because you experienced it firsthand. Think about, there are a lot of women that don't get that opportunity, especially in the developing years of life when we don't know what we will be in life.
Right. And that's why I'm intentional, as I know some of your viewers are, who are watching this today. I'm intentional about mentoring young women. You have to be intentional about that. I've talked to people that say, well, I really don't have time. And when I have time, I'll do it. You're never going to have enough time. And you're always going to have enough time because you have the same 24 hours that anybody else has. So you have a decision to make. But I'm very intentional about pouring into young women, not when they get to be 25 and 30, but when they're 5 and 6 and 7 and whatever age that they can just, receive certain things from. You have to be intentional about it. My mother and her sisters were intentional about, developing women leaders.
I love it. Now, you're a leader in the secular and the sacred. Share with us how that shaped and influenced your leadership.
Well, let me start this. Let me answer the question this way.
Okay.
My grounding in leadership comes from my faith. So I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And some people want to hide their faith, and that's their individual choice. I don't flaunt it, but I'm not ashamed of it. And so that's guiding that for me. And so because that guides who I am as a person, see, I think you have to be developed as a person and allow God to develop you as a person, and then watch him move you into leadership, whether it's secular, whether it's sacred, as long, for me, as it doesn't violate the principles that I say I ascribe to, right?
I know that's right. I
So
know.
I don't believe in line, in putting down my faith for the sake of a position.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And when you think about the challenges of the faith community today in a post-pandemic reality, many struggle. And I look at it as a test of faith, so to speak. But I find it interesting. Your grandmother had four sisters. It was 5 of them that began this legacy, which reminds me, there's a story in the Bible of a man who had 5 daughters.
Yeah, my grandmother had 5 daughters.
That's what well, okay, your grandmother.
Yeah, she said
5 daughters.
I thought you said sisters, but she had 5 daughters. Yeah,
That's what, well, yeah. 5 daughters. I know, yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. The point being, it reminded me when you said that of a man who had 5 daughters. And when he passed away, had they not had the courage and the belief in what belonged to them to speak up, they would not have gained their inheritance.
True.
And I think some of that still holds true today in us not finding our voices and believing that we can use them.
I think you're right. I think it's not finding our voices, but a lot of times, if we're honest about it, especially women, we suffer from imposter syndrome. We don't think that we are good enough, strong enough, smart enough. And some of that is because of the opportunities that we have not had as women, or especially as Black women, right? And so when you're relegated to back rooms, when you are misused and abused over centuries, when you don't have a seat at the table, regardless of who set the table, it will engender in some a reluctance to step into leadership, because they'll say to themselves, I'm not good enough. I'm not qualified enough. I've got to wait till I do A, B, and C before I raise my hand. And that's not true.
Oh my goodness.
That's what we're told a lot.
Absolutely, to this very day. As a coach, I often coach people through, first of all, I introduce them to and then work to coach them through their inner critic, that voice that lives in their head, that seeks to do no more than steal, kill, and destroy their joy for more in life. And it's very real. And without the opportunity to challenge that or to believe that it's not valid for your potential. What's the saying? How you start out in life is not always indicative of where you end up in life. And that brings me to a point. You started out in life in education, a professional path down the route of education. How has your leadership journey evolved to find you where you are today?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say education is a good place to start in leadership. So I started off teaching middle schoolers Spanish, French, and manners, not necessarily in that order. And so, if you can lead middle schoolers, you can almost lead anything. And I'm not just saying that tongue in cheek. That is a very delicate age of young people in that 12 to 14, 15-year-old age group. And so education, starting out as a Baltimore City Public School teacher, right, was my first entree into that kind of leadership. But as you noted already, I was already doing some things before that. We just didn't call, didn't know to call it leadership.
I don't know many women who did, which is another anomaly. As I started saying, too often when people think of leaders, and that still holds true in many sectors of the workplace, that for women to rise to a level to be in charge, to be the HWIC, the H.
Well, we've got that whole stereotype
Mhm.
of our personalities and our character that has been, mischaracterized over the years. When women speak up, women are aggressive and men are assertive. When Angel Reese does what she did in the LSU game, right?
Mm.
Then she's ghetto. The brothers have been doing that kind of trash talking for years
Mhm.
and still do it, and we come to expect it. But when a Black woman does it, it's something different. So I'm glad she's advocating for herself and standing up for herself. And shame on Barkley and others that want to put her down for doing something that they saw their teammates do and probably did themselves.
Mhm.
Watch
Absolutely.
any end zone, we switch sports to football, you watch any end zone, and when the defense intercepts a ball, they got a whole ritual they go through.
A dance,
Before
do
they
a
get back on the field.
pose,
Right.
something on the field to say, yeah, look at me, take my picture.
And we like it, and we love it, we cheer it. But this sister did what she did. She had the ring, and I don't blame her.
That's right. That's
And,
right.
and the white girl did the same thing the game before, woman,
Mhm.
and not taking anything from Caitlin Clark. She is a great player, but nobody said anything about that.
It reminds me of, who was it? Helen Reddy. I am woman, hear me roar, or something. No, maybe that was somebody. Yeah, that was Helen Reddy had another one. But there are these moments when women really step into that space, which is what I call women who are warriors, who fight for what we need, as they're carving out ways for others to follow, which is why you are a warrior and a way maker.
Bless you. But I want to say that there are all kinds of ways to fight.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I said warrior. I didn't
Yeah.
define it. It's not with guns. It's with your mind. It's with your desires, your wishes and dreams for equity and equality, for the gifts and graces that you've been given.
True.
I know.
Yeah.
The women in your family have served as warriors and waymakers for more than 100 years.
They
What did
have.
that mean to you and your generation growing up?
Well, I think for me, what it did was I saw a lot of role models, which some people don't get to see. And believe it or not, I'm on the quiet end of the women leaders and warriors in my family. And when I say the quiet, and we all lead similarly, but nobody approaches leadership the same way. And so it means a lot when you can see an example of a woman leading, and it's not an anomaly to you. So we were blessed to be able to see that. And I recognize that everybody does not see that.
Mm-hmm.
But we were blessed to be able to actually see it. And because the women in our family are so strong, I think that for me, sometimes, and I would be honest, sometimes when I was growing up, I was like, my goodness, sometimes you say, I want to be like them. And sometimes I was like, no, I don't want to be like them.
I love it. I love it. Yes, I know some of those strong women in your family, and you all leave an indelible impression of what's possible, to be in a space to take your dreams and really move them to becoming a leader, not the kind that wants to be a showboat about it, but the kind that wants to make a difference, to create forward progress in this journey called life. And as I was thinking about 1892, I'm saying to myself, the Afro was around to report on the last global pandemic.
Absolutely.
Before this one. Share with us some of the ways that over the years, the Afro has pivoted and shifted and continued to move forward.
Well, first of all, I need to say that the Afro is not a newspaper. We do publish a newspaper. We're a media company, which means we've embraced all realms of technology, recognizing that technology is a tool. It's not an end all be all. If that was the case, we'd all be stuck because technology is ever changing. But the changing landscape of technology in the media business has allowed us to do some things that our forefathers would never imagine being able to reach. Just, we reach like 1 million people through all of our social media platforms all over the world, with a very, very large following from the motherland, from Africa. We have a lot of followers from Africa, especially on Facebook and IG. So that's how we've transitioned, but the mission has stayed the same. Black newspapers, and I'll use the word newspapers now, but most of them are transitioning or have transitioned to online presence in addition to their print, are the trusted sources in our community. And also, Black journalists don't need someone to give us a frame of reference, a cultural frame of reference, for the most part. We have a cultural frame of reference. So we have evolved. I mean, we have a digital, solutions team that work on a lot of things on our digital side. And the other thing we know, and many successful companies know this, that you don't want to have just all one generation of people within your team. At least we don't. We're intentional. And so we have a lot of Gen Z and a lot of millennial people don't know that. We have folk in the middle, we have folk on the other end. We got some 40-year employees, right? But we also have a lot of younger people there as well that bring energy and bring their ideas, and some older people that have a lot of energy as well. And so the Black press had just celebrated 196 years this, when did they do that? In March of 2023. And so John Russwurm and Samuel Cornish in 1827, the publishers of the very first Black newspaper called Freedom's Journal, said this: "We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We still need to plead our own cause."
I love that. Yeah.
Those who say we don't need Black newspapers, we don't need HBCUs, just go to Florida.
Oh, there are a few things I like to go to Florida for, but there are many that I'm like, oh, it's just, they got all that sunshine and that warm weather. I'm allergic to winter. And so it's like, where can I get away that's close by and just get a little more of what I need to counteract my allergies? However,
I hear you.
As we continue to bring forth the voices and stories of women warriors and waymakers to encourage, inspire, and motivate you to start doing, keep doing, or take what you're doing to the next level. We know the struggle is real, and you don't have to go it alone. In honor of Maya Angelou's 95th birthday, let me leave you with these words. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. It just sums it up so eloquently of the charge, the responsibility we have to speak for ourselves. And I have to stop and give a shout out to the team behind the steam of Dr. Helen Speaks and Dr. Helen Holton and Associates, who show up to serve you. It may be my face you see each week with guests. However, it's the team behind me that makes this show possible each and every week. What keeps you forward from here to what's next? Dr. Helen Speaks. Our purpose is to bring you insightful, intriguing, and introspective information to level up your leadership. Our focus is on how we deliver lifelong learning, along with personal growth and professional development to you. Make Dr. Helen Speaks a part of your leadership development journey. You won't regret it. We're here every Tuesday on the Win-Win Women TV network. Every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Pacific time and 1 p.m. Eastern time. Replays are available here and on Roku TV, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and we're working to get them up on our YouTube channel. As Dr. Tony has said, we're continually evolving to show up and be a resource for women leaders, all leaders, but with a passion for women leaders, executives, entrepreneurs, and emerging leaders. None of us gets here without standing on the shoulders of someone else. And we are grateful for standing on the shoulders of Dr. Francis Tony Draper, our guest today. Thank you. Tune in and catch us next week. We'll be right here.